On the 65th anniversary of the Supreme Court's decision in Brown versus Board of Education, Senator Kamala Harris is sharing why it was so important for her. And she quotes here, she says this: "Brown v. Board is personal to me. My class was only the second after busing integrated Berkeley public schools. Without this decision, I likely wouldn't be a U.S. Senator. It's critical we combat the racial inequalities that still exist in our schools." That unanimous ruling is widely regarded as one of the Supreme Court's greatest moments. But civil rights groups are pointing out that over 24 of President Trump's nominees for federal court judgeships have dodged the question when asked about the case. Watch this.
Do you believe that Brown versus Board of Education was correctly decided?
Senator, I don't mean to be coy, but I think I get into a difficult area when I start commenting on Supreme Court decisions which are correctly decided and which I may disagree with.
I do not feel it's appropriate for me to comment on whether or not the case was properly decided.
I think that would be inappropriate.
The canons of judicial conduct prohibit us from opining about the merits of even landmark cases like Brown.
I'm not going to purport to undertake to grade the court's homework.
I'm not allowed to comment on the merits of Supreme Court.
Wow. Why can't they answer a simple question? Let's discuss. Erin Carmone is here. She is the co-author of Notorious RBG. Also, F. Michael Higginbotham is here as well, the author of Ghosts of Jim Crow, Ending Racism in Post-Racial America. Thank you both for coming on. Good evening. This is just unbelievable. Michael, I'm going to start with you. Why do you think that so many of Trump's nominees can't say whether they support this case? What is the explanation for that?
Well, there isn't a good explanation at all. On this 65th anniversary, I think we've seen it all. I mean, Brown is the most celebrated constitutional law case in our history. The Supreme Court, in a unanimous decision in '54, 9 justices, liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican, Southern, and Northerner, all said at a minimum the Equal Protection Clause stands for the proposition that government can't separate children in schools on the basis of race. It's an easy proposition, and so there's no good reason not to answer it. And the fact that some nominees have said they won't answer it is really problematic because it's an easy call. Brown has become a core principle of American democracy. It's about the promise of American democracy, that we can be inclusive, that we can create equal opportunity for all. And so for nominees to say they can't answer it is problematic.
Erin, we were listening to the soundbite in the studio, and just I was gasping, like, what? I can't believe that. I mean, as Michael Higginbotham just said, Brown versus Board of Education was a unanimous decision, both conservative and liberal judges at the time. Why are Trump's nominees ducking this question?
Don, the consensus has shifted so quickly that you had Brett Kavanaugh, you had Justice Samuel Alito, you had Chief Justice John Roberts, all saying that they thought that Brown v. Board was correctly decided. So these are now judges that are to the right of those deeply conservative justices. And I think that we need to stop and try to understand why is this happening? Yeah. So I think that there's 2 factors at play here. One is that the rules have already dramatically changed under Mitch McConnell, who has really prioritized this makeover of the federal courts. Everybody remembers Merrick Garland, but what about the fact that in the waning years of Obama's presidency, Mitch McConnell kept open 100 seats that he did not allow Obama to fill in the lower courts, which make incredibly important decisions. And now they're rushing through. They've changed the rules. They've gotten rid of the kind of consultation process with the senators. They have started accepting judges who are getting low ratings from the American Bar Association. And these are really young judges who are getting appointed for lifetime appointments and who are radically to the right even of what we saw under the Bush administration. And so I think the old rules that even had these conservative conservative justices endorsing this consensus decision are gone. The second thing I think has to do with the discussion you just had in the segment before, which is Roe v. Wade. Brown v. Board and Roe v. Wade are two of the most famous cases that involve the Constitution living up to its promise of equality for all people. And they involve a kind of activist lawyer model of the middle of the last century that the conservative legal movement has spent its entire tenure trying to undo. So why can you say that Brown v. Board is okay, but not Roe v. Wade? Yeah. Both of them are in the crosshairs.
It's very interesting that, Senator Richard Blumenthal, Michael, is saying that he believes that these nominees are being instructed by the Trump administration to avoid that question. But, is it an open question right now as to whether Trump judicial nominees feel bound by precedent, even in very well-established cases like Brown v. Board and Roe v. Wade?
Well, I think they're suggesting that they're not. They should be. We have a principle called stare decisis. Most justices, including Chief Justice John Roberts, seem to appreciate that principle. They've talked about being an institutionalist and respecting the court, respecting the precedent. But it seems like some of these nominees want to ignore that principle. And I think that is really problematic. But I do think it's about abortion. They feel like it's a trap. Some conservatives say if you answer the question on Brown, then you have to answer the question on Roe and talk about abortion. That's a weak argument, though, as was pointed out. John Roberts, Sam Alito, Brett Kavanaugh, other conservative justices all answered the question on Brown. So there's no reason not to answer the question on Brown. And any nominee to the federal court should be able to distinguish between a core principle in American democracy and stuff that is unsettled. And so it's like they can't tell the difference between a welcome mat and a no trespassing sign. It's easy to distinguish. Any nominee should be able to do so. If they can't, they disqualify themselves.
I learned a lot from this conversation. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate it.